a start in about 2 minutes. Just mindful that we are going live via YouTube. Just for those people that turned up more recently, because we're going live via YouTube, if you do want to say anything during this time, then do put your hand up makes you stand up and makes you have a microphone in your hand so that you can be heard would be a good thing to do. So it's going to wait for the final few to get seated. If you're a younger person and you don't mind sort of sitting on the floor or on these steps over here or standing to the side and you give up your seat for some other people, that would be awesome. I do appreciate it. Thank you. There are 2 seats here at the front. There's some seats here as well. There's about 3 seats down here. We are going to have to make a move, so do come on in, people. Don't wait at the sides. Right, so there are seats at the front here. If you want to grab a seat, do come on in. There are still 2 more seats here at the front. Folks, there are still seats here to be sat in if people want to come on in. 2 seats here, 3 seats at the front.
2 over here.
And 2 seats over here. Do come on through. Okay, we'll make a start. Good evening, thank you so much for coming out to spend an hour or so with us as we talk about Devizes' response to the Ukrainian refugee situation. A show of hands, don't be embarrassed about doing this or not, I'm just really curious, really interested. How many people have registered that are here today on the government site to make their house available? Wow, that is amazing. How many people, put your hands down, how many people are going to do that at some point? Excellent. If you're allowed to. That's really interesting. So, in the Devizes community area, or wherever you've come from, there are about, I don't know, 30, 40 hands that went up there who are wanting to make them homes available to refugees. That's just phenomenal and amazing. And for the rest of us that are here as well, it's not just about providing homes for refugees, it's about providing a community and support and a welcome place for those refugees that do get over here to find a home and to find a way to flourish in our community. And Love Ukraine, this event, is very much everybody here in Devizes coming together to enable that to happen. There's no one organisation that's leading on this. There are a couple of us that come together just to kickstart it, but it's very much a Devizes response, your response to how we do this and how we do this well. So it's brilliant to have you here. My name's Keith Brindle. I'm the Vicar at St James in Devizes. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a welcome introductions. That's just happened. We're going to have a little bit of an overview. We're going to have an update from Wiltshire Council from Laura Mays. And then we're going to talk about some practical themes as how we can turn your enthusiasm, your passion, your desire to actually want to kind of show these people who are going through the roughest, darkest of situations how we can help in really practical ways. We want to be able to do that in a collective way. We want to be able to do that in a way that we're not reinventing the wheel every time, but organisations and individuals are working collectively so that we can do that all really, really well. So to do that, we've set up a website and a means by which you can register through that website as an individual, as families, as organisations, charities and businesses working in Devizes. Then there's going to be a little bit of a discussion and then a Q&A. We're going to try and get all that in an hour. So it's going to be an hour and 15. We know it's going to be, don't we? Laura, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Keith. And I'm just trying to work out how I'm going to do this because exactly this time 3 weeks ago, I was just remembering I was in Swindon Hospital because I had slipped walking my dogs and had broken my wrist really badly and was sobbing in the hospital in unbearable pain. Anyway, they had an operation and I'm now standing. But in my low moments of real pain, I kept on telling myself, I'm not in Ukraine, I'm not in Ukraine. And I'm prone to self-pity, and I think it does bring it into perspective what they're going through versus what we can do. And I've got notes and I need to read them because there's some technical information in here. So we'll work it out. We'll work it out. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Laura Mays. I'm a Wiltshire councillor. I represent the area of Bromham Rad and Randway, but I'm also the deputy leader of Wiltshire Council. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be here tonight and really grateful. Keith and I work very closely together on a COVID response, and I was waiting. I wondered how long it would take before Keith contacted me to say, right, we're going to do the Save Ukraine, and here we are. And interestingly, I've been getting briefings today in order to be able to speak tonight, and I kept on saying to all my fellow councillors, who else is holding an event? Who else is doing it? Nothing. So here in Devizes, you are leading the way as ever with your kindness and your support, because obviously there is much we need to do to help the refugees coming into this country. So the reason I have a script, which I very rarely do have, is because there's some technical information that I do want to give you, that because for all the love and welcomeness here, there are some steps that really do need to happen in order for any family to come with us. And there's a lovely social worker here who's a friend of mine. I'm also in charge of children's services in Wiltshire. And of course, the element of safeguarding is incredibly important. And I think, whilst on the one hand we want to scoop everyone up and just bring them into our families, there is some stuff that needs to happen. So I think what I'm going to do is quite a measured response to what needs to happen, so that you can understand the implications of everything that needs to happen. So, sorry? Can you not hear me? Oh, sorry. Oh no, I'm not saying all that again. Sorry. And I also want to make clear that all the information I'm giving to you is changing on an hourly basis, and I'm hoping Danny Kruger, our MP, is on his way, because I was speaking to him at 4 o'clock. He had just come out of a meeting with the Home Secretary, and was saying, he was asking me what was going on, and I was saying, no, I want you to tell us what's going on. So this is really a changing situation all the time. So these are the facts as of 6:40 tonight. Right, I apologise. Okay. So as you may be aware, there are 2 ways that Ukrainian refugees are coming to Wiltshire. Some have families here and will already be making arrangements to come over or have settled into Wiltshire. They've come through the Ukraine Family Scheme. This allows applicants to join family members or extend their stay in the UK, and they can stay in the UK for up to 3 years. And we know that a lot have already come over and joined their families, and that's great, and we're aware of them, and we're getting their children into schools and all the work that needs to come with that. The second route, which is why most of you are here, is through the Homes for Ukraine scheme, where people can register interest in providing accommodation for refugees. So from last Friday, the visa application scheme opened for refugees wanting to come over to the UK. Last week, the government provided some initial outline advice on the role of local authorities, i.e. Wiltshire Council, and promised there would be further details to come, and they started to come in at about 2 o'clock on Monday. So I'm going to share that information with you tonight, so you can know what's going on, and so you can be ready for how you can support. Ukrainian refugees known as guests coming over to Wiltshire through the visa application scheme will have a named person in Wiltshire who will be providing accommodation, known as a sponsor. So any of you who have registered your homes will be known as a sponsor, and the refugee will be known as a guest. The sponsor and the guest's details will be submitted to the Home Office. This data, including the address of the sponsor, will be passed to the Department for Levelling Up Homes and Communities and allocated to Wiltshire Council. This will become visible to the council. Now that happened today, so we found out that we know that 1,500 households in Wiltshire have registered through the scheme. So those of you who put your hand up, you're one of 1,500 households who've done that. We also found out today that 70 households have been matched with 176 Ukrainians, which is great. I was talking to Sarah just now. It's very, very difficult for us to know what sort of numbers there will be, but that's it as of lunchtime today. And the visa application will then be processed through the Home Office. Wiltshire Council will have a role to play in carrying out DBS checks. Those are ways of checking whether you as hosts are safe in order to be able to have people in your households, no criminal records, no all the other things that you would need. So we will have a role to play in carrying out DBS checks on families providing accommodation for Ukrainian refugees, and we'll also be visiting properties to ensure everything is in order for their arrival. I don't know how to do this. It's fun. We will also be administering an initial £200 subsistence payment for these refugees who are arriving, and we will have a role to play in supporting them to access benefits and to look for work. It will also be our role to administer the £350 a month to the sponsors, and that money will come from central government. So they will send the money to us and we will forward it on to you. I'll have a lectern next time, please. We know that families will need school places, and we'll be working closely with our schools to ensure they can access a good education. And I've been involved with the Afghan refugees, and that's what we've been doing. We've been finding schools for them, and our schools are brilliant at being flexible and finding spaces for them. We also know that schools will need support, and we have written to them and we'll keep them updated on the details. For every Ukrainian who arrives in Wiltshire, the council will be given £10,500, and we will use that to help with those things like schooling and all the other costs that come with someone arriving in the county. And it says, we anticipate more information coming from central government in the next few days, and I could actually say it's probably on the next few hours because it does keep changing. We'll also be keeping our web page on Ukraine updated. Thank you. I'll remember not to break my arm next time. With the latest information. So I'll make sure, Keith, when you're sharing details, if you go to Wiltshire Council's website, there's a special place for support for Ukraine, so you can know what we're doing there. And we know that communities, particularly Devizes, are obviously very keen to provide support and any help, and so we're really grateful for any offers of help, because with our experience with welcoming Syrians and Afghans, that community support is incredibly important, because we as a council, we can do the statutory stuff. We can find a house, we can find a school, we can find healthcare, we can find a job, but we can't find warmth and community in that respect. That's for us to do, and that's why it's so fabulous to see so many of you here tonight. So we're also working with our voluntary groups and charities, including Wessex Community Action, which is part of the Voluntary and Community Service Partnership, and is helping to coordinate responses as ways to support. So, it says, what we want to urge is if you are able to provide a home, please do it through the visa application scheme. And for anyone who wants support, and again I'll get Keith to share these, please email refugees@wiltshire.gov.uk with as much detail as possible about what you can offer. And I think actually tonight we're hoping to coordinate that all together anyway about what the Devizes offer is. And if you are aware of any Ukrainian refugees who are coming as part of the family scheme, please feel free to pass on their details to us by emailing refugees@wiltshire.gov.uk, because what we don't want is people just to come in under a radar or will not be supported, because that's really important. We're also really keen to hear anyone who can speak Ukrainian. I know we've got one in our church, but anyone else who knows of anyone who speaks Ukrainian, that would be great. And just to be aware, we're getting hundreds of emails into that refugee inbox, so you may not get to hear straight away. So I just want to thank you all again for coming tonight and showing unity in the way that Devizes does. And so I'm not sure who I hand over to next.
Well, that's obviously, we did Q&A later on, but I wonder if there's any questions now that we've been you stood up and you're here, that we could get answered straight away whilst you're here. Stand up, round around. Just try and keep it to a brief question, please, yeah.
On the DBS checking side, so we've registered as a home. My wife has enhanced DBS. I don't. Is that okay?
You both need to be DBS'd, and if you're going to have children in the household, you'll have an enhanced DBS as well.
Okay, we'll sort that out.
And yes, unfortunately, DBS checks, particularly if they're enhanced, will take extra time.
So people can actually register themselves to get clearance?
Right. I didn't know that. Apparently you can register yourself to get clearance.
Hi, I'm a registered foster carer in Wiltshire. Are there particular arrangements with fostering that we will be being notified for support of Ukrainian refugees, children especially?
No, but if you want to say that you would be prepared to take a Ukrainian, and that, can you email the refugee email address?
We've already registered with the government website and been matched. How soon before we get a residence check?
Well, I'm pleased you asked that question, because that is the thing that's giving us the most concerns, again on the safeguarding level, because, and we had this debate on our meeting on Monday night, that at the moment we think it should be a registered qualified social worker who needs to make those checks. This is what we do when we foster a Wiltshire child, and I think our concern is we have got very, very vulnerable people coming, a young mum with 2 children who's left her husband to fight. It's really important that they come into a home that's going to be safe and loving. And so as it's happening hourly, all these updates, we are looking at the implications, because of course we have social workers who are there to care for our Wiltshire children. They don't have at the moment, they don't have the capacity to do this second job. So we're looking at whether, at the moment we don't think it should be volunteers or just members of the public who do those checks. We need qualified people. So we're looking to see, can we get agency staff or can we get newly retired social workers? And that's the sort of thing that's happening. So I'm afraid I can't give you a time on that. it's great to hear you're matched. And as I said, we only got that information today, so we are working on it. It could be a month, you know, but I just don't know. I just say that I plucked that out of the air, but you know, if we've got 1,500 homes that are registered, we know now that 70 have been matched. We've got to do 70 home checks, and you know, if you were doing it as a foster carer, it would take a very, very long time because that person would have to be checked and so forth. So I don't want to quote me on that, but I just want to sort of manage expectations.
There's somebody here
I have a question regarding schools. Our primary school in the village is full, and I guess that's fairly common for a number of schools and maybe secondary schools as well. Will facilities be put in place to enable more capacity?
Not every school is full, and so I don't know which village you are from, but there are spaces, particularly in our small rural primary schools. There are many vacancies, so, but obviously not yours. But the answer is yes, there is capacity. There's definitely capacity in the system, both at primary and secondary. That's not one of our concerns. Oh, sorry.
Is there a social media need for sort of building a community using, say, Facebook and that kind of thing? Is Wiltshire Council leading on that, or? Great, okay. And if a father is accompanying the family, does that make a difference in respect to DBS? Can it be, you know, does it make it faster if the father is accompanying the family as well?
No, I'm afraid it's got to go through the same process.
I imagine that these processes that you're describing are the normal processes. You mentioned fostering. I don't believe they're being applied in Poland and in other countries in Europe at the moment. They are short-circuiting them in the interests of the need. Will you look at something in between short-circuiting it dramatically and sticking to your normal processes if this becomes a block on what is meant to be something which is very helpful to people?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we're trying to look at the moment. It's just it's the logistics of it, and I think one of the reasons I'm hoping Danny will come, but he's been looking at where the blocks are, and I think things like the DBS checks, which you say take a very long time, they're trying to find a way of really speeding that up.
Oh, right. So for those of you who don't understand what a DBS check is, it's a sort of systematic check, sort of using the information via the police and so on to ensure that everybody who's coming into your home is actually safe to do so. And because of that, that process simply does take a long time, because otherwise you end up with some of the awful cases that we've all heard of in the news, where vulnerable people have been seriously abused. So it's a really important part of the process, but it does therefore take, well, usually a minimum of 4 weeks, and it can take, I've found, up to sort of 12 weeks. There's a charge for this, and so when I said that you can register yourself, I'm sure you can't get enhanced clearance yourself, but if you do actually apply for yourself, there will be an inherent charge to it. And what I'm really saying is, in terms of short-circuiting all of that, if somebody were appointed within Wiltshire Council, within social services, and actually, if it was a volunteer with supervision from a social worker, they could be doing all the sort of legwork of the admin process and getting these applications underway. Because if there are 1,500 people in Wiltshire who've actually registered, at the point at which they register, those applications should be simultaneous.
We'll take 1 or 2 more questions just to enable us to move on. So,
I've had a DBS check because I'm on the parish council, the parochial church council, PCC. Does that count?
No, you have to have a DBS check for what you're being DBS checked for.
And the second question I had was, I've heard that the refugees prefer to go to a major town or city. I live in a rural village. Is that going to be relevant?
It could be, and actually one of the realities we found with the Afghan refugees who came over is they want to be in the cities. So whilst we arranged accommodation for them in lots of locations, they didn't take any of them up because they want to be in the cities. So.
I'm going to take 2 more questions which I've got earmarked, so sorry, folks.
The lady in front just said that she has been accepted as a refugee, to take a family, and you're telling her that she has to wait at least 3 months to get a child. I think that's what you said, to take. Well, it's 12 weeks for your check, wasn't it?
No, I think that's what we're speeding up is the DBS checks. So I mean, what they're saying to us now is they can turn them around in 6 hours, but we've just got. It's a physical process. It's a data checking process.
The fact is, this lady has already had a family allocated to her, and you're saying that that family, wherever they are going to be held waiting for 12 up to 12 weeks, maybe 6 hours, I don't know, for her to be able to help that family. Is that what you're saying? Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I know hundreds. My name is Arno. I may give you some background because I'm Polish. So as you know, most of the refugees who will come to this country, hopefully, will come from Poland. Some other countries, but most of them will come from Poland. We have now 2,300,000 refugees from Ukraine. More than 700,000 children. And from day one, the Polish community here in the UK are working very actively to supply all the things to them. But now we are looking to really try to bring these people over. And this is a Herculean job. It's impossible in the circumstances which the Priti Patel built to bring them over in very quick time. We have the families been waiting 3 weeks, and they said, no, we're going to Germany, we're going to Belgium, we're going to Holland, we're going to Czech, we're going to Spain, because we are not able to wait for the place. Someone will provide the check, because Laura said about the DBS. This is the last step need to be done from our side. But the Home Office is providing full check of the people they want to come. So you have to know the person you would like to invite from the name, from the address, the passports, whatever. Sometimes, as you know, from 3 million people left over Ukraine, many of them came to Poland in the pajamas, without any documentation. So what the EU done, we opened the borders on the 24th of February. The EU implemented the law, free visa travel from all Ukrainian refugees. Priti Patel decided this is not allowed to make it here because the safety of the British people is more important than the life of the European refugees. You have to wait at least 3 months. I hope the war will be over and no one will remember even they wanted to come to this country. I have to say, I have a British friends who are coming to us, the Polish community, and they say for the first time in their life, they never felt so ashamed to be British as they do now. And I have to people like you who carry on the lead of this country, on this Wiltshire County, or maybe to our MP, who should know what to do if there is a demand from the community like you. So I will really apply to you, every single of you, and everybody who knows your friends, to send the letters, emails to our MP and demand them to change the rules. They should ease the rules to get the people in, and then they can do all the checks they want. But they should give the shelter and the safety for everybody who would like to get it in our country.
We do need to move on. Thank you for what you shared. I think when...
Sorry, just say one thing. I worked for the police 35 years ago. You could do a police national computer check.
Okay, I worked for the police 35 years ago. You could do a police national computer check in about 10 seconds on the computer 35 years ago. Tells you whether somebody's got convictions. Could that not be used as an interim?
Not enough for Pretty Patel.
Okay, try not to mention her name again. No, you are right. You're right. But we've got to think about how... You're absolutely right.
That's why right to the knee, bloody figure, not to walk with dogs, but just go and work for the people of this country as well.
I think one thing that we did do during COVID-19 support, Laura, that did make a difference is that we did have a workaround. So when we were responding as a town to that, we recognised that actually there were human lives that were more important than getting it perfectly right. So we had a workaround, and we registered 450 volunteers in a day. And what we said was we took existing DBS as good enough, and we took people vouching for others, those people who had who were in situations where we could trust them, either because they were doctors, police, they were working in schools and what have you. So we managed, when it came to our own well-being and the well-being of our neighbours in the UK, to find a workaround so we could respond quickly. And I think there is quite clearly a huge number of people that want to do something, who rightfully feel that that kind of loving response that we want to give to open up our homes is going to be stifled by the government. So we do, yeah. You can mention the name one more time. No, we have.
Could Wiltshire not have a reporting system so that when refugees are placed, if they were allowed to be placed like that, they could immediately have access to a reporting system where somebody's online all the time if things are going wrong?
I think one offer that we could make as a community and should be recorded is that if there's any way that we as volunteers can support Wiltshire Council to get the process done quickly, then we should make ourselves available to do that. And some of us have experience and backgrounds. You know, ex-police officers know how to do these things and what have you. So let's make that.
That's why people must change.
Okay, I gave you that one card to use, and you use that card.
Keith, am I allowed to respond?
Yes, you are, push follower.
The answer is yes. We're doing everything we can to be as flexible as we can to make it happen. That's our objective.
I mean, if we can
You can do nothing without you must change the law. You can say everything.
Yeah, so we as a council obviously are working within guidance. We've got to keep people safe, but we are moving heaven and earth at the council to redeploy our existing staff who have been, doing your roads or whatever it is, keeping your leisure centres open. We're thinking, right, how do we pivot those people to help to make this system work? And that's what we do. We did it during COVID. We'll do it for the Ukrainian refugees. We have to do it within the law because we're a local authority, and we have to keep people safe. But we will do what we can because that's what Wiltshire Council always does. We do it despite...
Allow us to help you then.
Yes, and that's what's great is I'm saying, please open invitation to please help us. Keith will tell you how. We're going to get as many volunteers as we can. And as and when we know what we need, we'll say, right, you can speak Ukrainian, you can do a DBS check, you might be able to be trained to go and assess whether a house is safe. And there are just small things, like someone said on one of the calls I was on, well, I live in Urchfond, and when the army are doing their stuff on Salisbury Plain, my entire house shakes. Now, is that an appropriate home to send a traumatised family to? Likewise, you might have a single father who's got 2 sons. is it right for a young mother and two young girls to go into that household when they've only got one bathroom? You know, it sounds trite, but those are the sort of things that we'll be looking at. But we want to make this work. We always do at Wiltshire. You're fabulous people, and we'll make it work again.
Okay, we are going to move on to the next things. That took a lot longer than anticipated, but thank you, Laura. Thank you for just hearing the questions and the views of the community there. One way that we're going to bring the community support together is via a website which you can have a look at on your phones if you want to now. That's good. There it is. LoveUkraine Devizes.org. I tried to check to make sure that there's none of those letters joined up to say something rude. You know, when you put letters together and you can put it into one word and then it says arse or something like that. But it doesn't, so we're okay. So you can go to that website. That will have some of the links. It's only just been created, but that will have some of the links that will be helpful and some of the links that Laura has mentioned. But one of the main things that it has on it is the ability for you to register as either, so this is the website. No, it's not, you can't see it, I can set my computer to stand still. Okay, so this is the website, and if you scroll down to the website to where it says here get involved, there are two buttons on the right hand side. Join as an individual. Join as an individual, so you scroll down towards the bottom, join as an individual or a family, and join as an organisation. That will take you to some online forms, two different sets of forms depending if you're going to join as an individual or join as a family. And what that allows you to do is register your interest in being that wider community support that we are gathered here to do in a coordinated way. So it asks a series of questions as to what you are able to provide. It also asks if you've already registered on the government website to make your house available through the Phase 1 scheme. And also you can join on both of these forms if you're able to. If you work for an organisation, or if you encourage your organisation, that can be a charity, a school, a mental health provider. So do look at those forms. So if you just click on one, so I'll take this one for example. You register your email address, you register your details, and then you let us know what you can provide. And also if you have any comments. So the sorts of things that you could, as an organisation, provide, and some of the things that people have spoken about. So there's an organisation called Spurgeons. They look after children and toddlers, and they are offering to provide toddler groups for Ukrainian refugees. But they would also need volunteers to help them deliver that toddler group. They will also potentially need people that are able to speak the language. If we have those different people registered together, then that's going to be a really good welcoming toddler group for that for those Ukrainians that need that. If you are a business owner and you have the opportunity to employ people, these people could be here with us if they're able to get into the country, could be here with us for up to 3 years. They'll be wanting to have a fulfilling life, and that will include wanting to contribute to our community and to our economy and to get employment. So if we're able to put work alongside the skills and gifts of the people that come here, then that's something that can be registered through this site. with the time that we have available, what would be good is if you could sort of talk with the people around you as to what you might answer for the last couple of questions and what you hear from other people as to what you might do for this last two questions. What skills, knowledge, resources do you have that might help Ukrainian refugees live in the Devizes area? And if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please use the space below. So what I want you to do is have that conversation here, so then, rather than, if I give you the microphone, one or two people will have the conversation. If I can encourage you to have a small conversation now, and then go home and fill this out with your mind full of what you've heard and what you're feeling, and then we get everybody's comments registered here, also your gifts, talents, and the organisations that you work for that might be able to contribute to that. And that will be the first stage in bringing together our community response to it. So have a couple of moments talking to the people next to you, and then we'll get back. do know that it's going to go on a little bit longer than 10 minutes. Let's try and aim for a quarter to finish, though, people. So Danny Kruger's just arrived, and we'll answer some questions a bit later on. And he's just been updated. Laura is okay. She did take a tumble, and she did actually manage to fall on her arm that she hurt. You're okay, aren't you, Laura? Yeah, good. I want to just introduce you to a couple of people that are involved in this organisation, so that you're mindful of the different things that are sort of going on behind the scenes to help support you when you fill out the forms online, and to see how those forms get processed. So I'm just going to point to them if they stand up, or if I can't find them, that would, if you just stand up anyway. So Kate, could you stand up? So Kate, Devizes area debt centre manager, and she's going to help look at supporting the financial situation of Ukrainian refugees. So she's trained to give debt advice and debt support, but also looking at collectively how we provide additional finances in Devizes to support individual families coming over. Richard, who was the guy that put this up for Laura, he's going to help with comms, so some of the processing of the forms that you fill out will be looked at by Richard. Fiona, are you here from Devizes School? Yes. Fiona, do you want to stand up? The others didn't stand up, did they? Fiona and Bethany. Bethany's at the back outside. Bethany, just quickly pop in. So Bethany's a sixth former at Devizes School. There's another girl called Ella, and Bethany's our chaplain at Devizes School, and they're going to be liaising with teenagers, Ukrainian teenagers that come, so that there's people that are around to show them around, to welcome them, to show them where the hangouts are, the go-to places, and the not so go-to places. Are there such places? Svetlana, who has been mentioned in passing. Do you want to stand up, Svetlana? So Svetlana is a member of St. James's Church, and also a Ukrainian national who speaks both Russian and Ukrainian, and will help us with some of those visa applications and some of the other stuff that might help to welcome people in. Could you imagine coming to a toddler group, your youngsters and yourself don't speak Ukrainian, but there is somebody there that can just help you kind of find out where the toilet is and the tea and the coffee is. That's a good welcome. Ian and Claire are standing up already, and they're going to help in the background with regards to project managing some of those people that register with businesses or individual registers, and just sort of grouping some of that together. And Rebecca here is similarly going to do a similar kind of role. Is Narelle here? Hello, I thought that might be you. Narelle, do you want to say a little bit about, very briefly, about your experience and the work that you've been doing? Narelle is a very, very recent addition to the group, and she's going to help with sort of the Ukrainian side of visa applications and some of the other expertise. But I just want Narelle to say some of what she's been doing.
Hi, never spoke like this before, it's a bit daunting. So I became involved with Sunflower Sister Group, which I have been freely posting out there on the Devizes issue group over the last couple of weeks. Between us, there's 45 plus admins within the group, and we've split it up and been coordinating different areas within the UK. I've been doing Wiltshire, although I have been doing Scotland, and then all the way down to Cornwall as well. The lady that stood up before, Vanessa, I matched her with a family that are actually connected to the family that we are hopefully going to sponsor. And that's where obviously my passion was to expand within the community of Devizes. I'm working alongside a chap that's doing Melksham, Corsham, Chippenham and Laycock as well, so that we can start to look at joining the communities together when they get here, hopefully, if they get here.
Thank you. So, Narelle, going to be able to help us, those of us that have made our houses available but don't know Ukrainian people. That's part of the thing that Narelle's been doing and will be able to do. I'm going to get James and Christine just to speak very, very briefly about their experience, because they knew through a friend a family in the Ukraine, and they've gone through some of the process and just how that process has been.
The process, much has been said already, the process is quite torturous. Sorry, I'll stand up as well. The process is quite torturous, but I regard it as it is worth pursuing and persevering with for the rewards at the end of it, obviously. If you have a named person, you can apply on their behalf, but you equally have to swap information. So you have to share passport information, they have to do the same. And that includes photographs. And I can't honestly see how a refugee in a temporary accommodation somewhere in Europe can do this on their phone when English isn't their first language. One obstacle I have come across, and it's a bit like playing an arcade game. You have several attempts to get up to the next level, you keep trying, you get there, and then you've got to go all through the same number of loops to try and get to the next level. And it's a bit like that, you have an iterative process. They do have to provide proof that they are resident pre-December in Ukraine. And of course, that's not the first thing on your list when you're fleeing in your pyjamas. So I don't know what the situation is if they cannot provide that, whether they basically go to the back of the queue or whether they have to attend in person at a visa processing centre. But these are all things that are obstacles we're trying to iterate through, attempt after attempt, to try and find a way around it. But as I said, it's worth persisting for. We're not at the end of the process, but the rewards at the end of it must be worth the perseverance.
Thank you, James. So what I want to do now is, just because he has joined us, is to allow Danny to say a couple of things, and he's been briefed very briefly about the conversations that have already happened, and you've hopefully had a chance to hear kind of where we're feeling as a community on some of the hurdles that we're feeling about not being able to kind of be as generous, as efficiently and as quickly as we would like to be as a community.
Great, yes, you're not the only one. Okay, hello everybody, I'm Danny Kruger, I'm MD Devizes, and sorry to be late, I just came down from London after the meeting, we were back tonight. I've been in meetings about this all day, actually the last week or so, and let me just quickly say why I think the overall scheme is right, and this demonstrates it. If government was trying to organise all the matching of all the refugees that wants to come to the UK and identifying which homes they should go to, I mean, we complain rightly about the bureaucracy of the current system. That will be a new level of nightmare. So it is absolutely the right system. It's one that works all over the world, inspired particularly from the Canadian example. But this model of community sponsorship, whereby people identify people that they want to host in their homes and apply together for a visa, and the government just says as long as two people are applying together and they both have their checks done, then that's great. That is, I'm really sure, is the right way. And what we're seeing here is the evidence of the offer that is in every community in the country. And it's not just about homes. What I'm really inspired by, Keith, and thank you for thinking of this and organising it, is the support that will be provided to the little new units of a host and guests. So it's not just a home that they need, it's the whole social support, and it's got to be done as a community. And the next stage, by the way, which we're not at yet, is that, which would be great to discuss as we get there, is the opportunity for a community in the UK to, as it were, host a community from Ukraine. So almost like a twinning arrangement. So you can imagine that there might be a group of Ukrainians who all come from the same place, their children know each other, they would like to be supported in the same town in England. And so the next stage of the process will be enabling, I hope, town councils, but certainly churches,
like groups or community organisations to be the super sponsor for a group of Ukraine, 50 people, 10 people, whatever they can accommodate, and then that group, might be the church, might be the council, will work with the hosts to, as well, parcel out the guests and look after them as a community. So that's the spirit of where I think we should be going. So, and that's why I do think community sponsorship is the right way. But of course, the massive problem we've got is the visa process. I wasn't at the beginning, but I can imagine, because I'm dealing with it all the time. It is really bad, and I'm not going to sit here and say that the system is working like it should. I think there's no point in having a defence of that, other than the fact that there do need to be checks, people coming into the country. And everybody acknowledges that. Even the Labour Party, they were government, would be having visa checks. So they say that they could do it more efficiently, and I bet people could, because I'm so frustrated as an MP dealing on behalf of people who've got Ukrainians coming, family members. There isn't really any justification for the dysfunction of the system. And all I can say is there's no individual you can blame. It is a system failure going back decades. We are dealing literally, I'm afraid to say, with decades old hardware and software. And obviously it's government's fault, I'm not assuming responsibility, but this is a systemic dysfunction. And yet it is, for what it's worth, can assure you, speeding up rapidly. So the number of family visas, remember that was the first family scheme, you had a family member. We're now in the tens of thousands of people coming in on that scheme. The community sponsorship one, which is what we're talking about, only launched on Friday, juddering into the air. And that is now underway, and there are still glitches, what we're dealing with all day. But we are going to get there, and I'm afraid to say this is a long-term commitment we're making. I mean, if we thought that this problem would be over in a week or two, then we wouldn't be doing it. We are here for the long term, and one must expect there will be a flow of people needing homes here in the weeks and months ahead. So we've got to get the system right, and what we're talking about here is amazing, the resource you have. So just I'm happy to take a question or talk to you directly, but if there are specific cases that you're struggling with, I can very easily just check the status of them. All I'll probably get is an answer like it's in the system, but I can do that, and I am pushing very hard on all the cases I'm dealing with to try and get them through the system quicker. So that's the job I can do.
Okay, does somebody have the other microphone? Somebody sort of walk out with the microphone. Okay. I'm putting it down knowingly. Danny, one of the things that you said was about the community being a super sponsor. Yeah. So Devizes Town it's not a twinning link with, but we have a friendship link with a friendship association that goes back quite a number of decades now with Lesko in Poland. That's only 30 miles in from the Ukrainian border. We're in contact with LoveUkraine, in contact with the support group that are supporting refugees. There's 150 families in Lesko that are, they're really struggling. So I was speaking to the guy who's coordinating yesterday, and he hadn't had sleep for like 2 days, supporting 150 families in a small town. Can we do something there? Those people have come from a similar place in Ukraine. They're now in a similar place in Poland. We've got people that can do the visa thing. Can we not make that happen?
So yes, that's great. So as I said, phase 2, which is a sort of group sponsorship, which will again massively speed the thing up, because it won't have to be lots of individual applications. But we're not there yet. Where we are now, you can, if we have 50 Ukrainian families who are sort of like a group, and we've got 50.
It's around about that number.
Whatever the number is. Okay, we've got 50 people here who would like to sponsor and don't have their own named Ukrainian guests yet. Then what we need to do is to talk to the guys in Lesko and draw up a list of their people, and we draw a list of our people, and then you guys, and this is why this is your job, is to say, is to do the brochure. That's the job that can be done. The government doesn't need to do it, and it will be so much quicker and better if it's done at a local level.
So what we can do is, if you register on that as an individual, as a family, it's already registered with the government, then we have a connection with Lesko with a community there that's supporting 150 families. Interestingly, they are women and children. The families are 4 to 6, so 4 to 6 members in the family of women and children. They have pets as well. That was the first question that was asked by the guy that running the centre in UNESCO. You know, are these people ready to take 4 to 6 Ukrainians with their pets? And so just be mindful of that. But we can do that matching process can happen, and we will be able to match people that are in a common place in Poland that come from a relatively common area on the other side of the Ukrainian border, and with the support of the people here, we can kind of make that happen.
That's that.
Okay, let's take a couple of questions. I said we'd finish at 1:45, yeah. Does anybody have a microphone?
Just a quick word on Leicester. I'm in touch with Leicester because my dad was involved in setting up the original friendship group. So I'm in touch with people there. I'm in touch with one group there. And they have so many people coming over the border every day. One day last week they had 27,000 people. And the charities are being helpful. I mean, and they're getting there, but the people of Leicester are exhausted just coping.
It's not a question, it's the list of names that you gave out in terms of contacts, Keith, earlier, in terms of Nello and Claire. Will that be on the website? Is that what you've done for Nello? Thank you.
Okay, over here. I'm mindful that I'm giving the microphone to people that have already spoken, so if you want to speak, I will prioritise you from them.
Hi, thanks for coming along, and you didn't get the first part of the meeting. I think what you said on visas is clearly happening quicker and quicker, and appreciate the efforts on that. The long pole in the tent is sounded from the meeting earlier here is DBS checks and residence checks, which are potentially up to 12 weeks. And can you do something to recognise that we are not in a situation, if in Lesko they have got that number of people, I can guarantee you they're not doing DBS checks in Poland or Germany or Netherlands or France, and I'm not sure we need the same system applied here. Please can you do something to look at those two things?
Before you answer that, you were supportive of the Love Devizes, and we did have a workaround at the beginning of that, so that we jumped the DBS. We worked out there was a way to do it well and safe, so that we could do the good that we needed to do. It wasn't perfect, but it did mean that we were able to use people's existing DBS checks and the good word of other people in the community to vouch for them. So we found a workaround to support our own. So
yes, that's totally right. So there's checks going on people who are coming in, but also crucially, mostly it's about the hosts, because you don't want people, smugglers and traffickers and modern slavery. You know, all that is greatly at risk. Yes, I was in meetings today about both things, and the DBS checks definitely should be happening a lot quicker. I mean, if it's possible for a police officer to check your criminal record on the side of the road in 30 seconds, what's the problem? But it's just about the scale and the data uploads and so on is apparently a problem, but they are working on that. And then on the check, this house suitability check again, that seems bogged down in an unnecessary circle of when it needs to happen, because where's Laura? We were talking earlier. It seems unnecessary that the house needs to be properly validated before the person can get their visa to arrive. It needs to be checked quickly, ideally before they take up residence, but that shouldn't be a barrier to them getting out of Poland. So we do need, the expectation is that the house will be checked as fast as possible, but it should not be a blocker on the visa. And that, I think, is how things are trying to organise.
Hi Danny, just make some practical and maybe it's not. On a logistical scale, obviously if we're talking about a mass group travelling, whether that's through civilian or military flights, and obviously a large military presence, is there consideration or discussions going on with the military as to how that can happen?
Well, at the moment, the visa system is all this individual, families just coming on their own, and they're flying mostly, and they're flying for almost nothing, because big carriers basically waive their fees, or they're doing it for a few quid each. And then once they get here, by the way, the British government pays for the travel around the country. So there is a difficulty at the moment, but what we were just talking about, which is large numbers coming from a single place to a single place, and I think there's the opportunity there to do some, be a bit imaginative about group. And there are people with coaches, with aeroplanes, offering, and I'm not sure whether the military would do it. Maybe, yes, that shouldn't be a barrier.
We know local coach companies that would be able to help us out.
Yeah.
We can make that bit happen. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, over there back.
It was mentioned earlier about military on plane. Would we be able to stop them firing? Because certainly in our village, it shakes the walls, it shakes the pictures off the walls occasionally, and would not be the right ground for any refugees who are really traumatised.
Well, I guess it's an ongoing conversation with the military about their live firing, and that could be part of that conversation. But I mean, I'm afraid my instinct would be we need to prioritise their training, because that is a national priority, national defence. And we should, if it's inappropriate for refugees to come to one of the villages that are close to the impact area, then I think we should try and put them somewhere else rather than try and stop the training that goes on. And be my immediate response to that. As I say, there's a conversation that is always going on about getting the balance right with the military. Sorry, not giving the answer you wanted.
Hi, yeah. I'm from a military background. Would it be worth the council chatting to local military units to engage with their welfare departments? Because as a welfare officer, we used to do a lot of checks on married quarters and any social incidents and stuff like that. So we can engage with the local military units to speak to the welfare officers and get them to help with the checks.
So a challenge to the council is literally training professionals who do those checks, and that's a great idea.
Danny, there's also every church has a safeguarding officer that does tens of DBS checks every year for volunteers. So there is that offer as well.
Great.
As do schools.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we'll
Hi. It's not really a question, it's just a suggestion. We're talking about the military and what they can do. I noticed around Devizes got a lot of empty MOD premises. That could bypass perhaps some of the DBS checks and bring communities over in groups to take possession of those premises, and perhaps as a community we could ensure that those places are up to standard, clean and ready to welcome families in. Perhaps we decorate.
Can I just let Laura, we've been talking a lot about MOD properties and also as to housing and this housing association. There's a lot of empty houses around.
I'm really pleased you mentioned that, because in fact Richard Kruger, who's the leader of Wiltshire Council, was on ITV yesterday in which road is it, Sarah? Sarah Drive. He used that as the backdrop for all those empty homes, and we have continually badgered the Ministry of Defence over this, because there's some in Lynham and there's a lot in Devizes. They're all over the county. They're literally perfectly formed empty homes. So we are trying, and Danny, if you can add your weight to that, that would be great.
We tried very hard with Afghan. The Afghan price, we didn't get away with that. So we need to keep pushing it.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question.
Well, this was spoken to Dan directly, so all right.
I think you said earlier that 76 Ukrainians have been allocated. What is the scale of the problem that you're trying to solve here? What is your estimate of how many the Devizes region will have to allocate, to house?
It's 70 homes have been matched with 156 Ukrainians as of today, but obviously that number will keep increasing. And I think this is the issue we have is, and this is as a council looking at what resource to put at this, we just don't know how many will come. And you told us, we know the numbers that are possible, and I was almost relieved to hear it was 176, because I was worried there wouldn't be any, because I thought it would be just too difficult. But that is the difficulty of knowing how many people will come.
there is a very high demand. There's 150,000 people registered offers on the first day across the country, and the scheme is uncapped. So however many people want to come here and have offers of homes here, that is the number that will come. So the government's thinking in the hundreds of thousands nationally. How many will be in Wiltshire, we don't know. And again, there'll be different waves as well. So those, at the moment, the way it's working is that most people are being linked to other people in cities. It happens to be the case. And we think that most Ukrainian guests will want to be in larger towns because of the facilities, transport, schools. But so that might mean that Wiltshire gets less than another more urban place. But equally, there might be more office here. Obviously, it's a nicer place. So maybe there'll be an increase. We don't know. But as I say, it's not about government saying this is the number we're going to take, which is the way it's always worked before. 20,000 Syrians, 2,000 Afghans, whatever it is. It is literally about how many people the British public would like to host, and of course how many Ukrainians want to come here. That's the only limit.
And the time frame, and the hurdles to overcome to make that happen, I think is also kind of a bit of will have an impact upon how many eventually take. We're going to stop there. I know there are other questions. We will hang around. If the coordinators could be around the front, then you can possibly receive some questions as well. I've just got two things that I've been asked to advertise. One is a Wiltshire walk through Ukraine on Salisbury Plain, Saturday the 26th of March at 10 a.m. That person there is selling tickets and has more flyers.
Not selling tickets, but we will be with information and celebrating our if you want to join. So we will go the line, yeah?
And a community supper for Ukraine on Wednesday the 30th of March. So once you can have a day's walk, and then 3 days later you can have a supper. On the 30th of March, here in Devizes, and there's somebody here who's been promoting that person there, do see her afterwards. Thank you very much for coming, thank you for your questions. Please do go to the website and fill out the form, then we will be able to capture all your thoughts, more importantly, what it is that you're offering and willing to offer, not just with regards to homes that you're offering, but that wider welcome as a community that we can provide. One thing that I heard today on a programme was that actually our first response to students is sometimes to just say, and possibly particularly for blokes, is kind of like, how can I sort this out? What do I need to do to kind of make this a better thing? And that is a really good response. But also, there's a part of our response that should be a human, emotional response to the tragedy that is unfolding in real people's lives. As a Christian, I would turn to prayer to kind of help me kind of process that and understand that. I'm not going to assume that for all of us here this evening, but could we just take as a way to end this well, I think, to have just a moment of silence. I will say nothing, just a moment of silence to recognise that actually we're wanting to offer support. And let's join arms and stand up and do that. To offer our support, but also to be a human, mindful response to the tragedy that is unfolding in Ukraine and the individuals it's impacting. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Particularly thanks to the youngsters that have come from Devizes School and the 1010 Youth Group. Lovely to have you with us. Yes.